Nice. Sick. Let's do it. Very interesting things happening in the Discord, in my Discord recently. Some of which I might even talk about. Let me see. In fact, I was just talking with somebody in my Discord about the right wing pipeline on YouTube, and you're walking into a place. Hello, Gotron. Yeah, feel free to mute the stream or turn it off at your leisure. Let's see. Where was this study? I was thinking of a study. Somebody in the Discord sent a Cryoraptor sent a screenshot of Wikipedia that was very strange. Look at this. Screenshot says multiple studies have found little to no evidence to suggest that YouTube's algorithms direct attention towards far-right content to those not already engaged with it, and it cites 3 footnotes. Now, I don't doubt that study, like, there are studies that might suggest that, but that's a lie. That's blatantly misleading information, because there are other studies that have hard data to substantiate that a far-right pipeline objectively exists in the YouTube ecosystem. Let me see if I can find that. Here, hold on. YouTube far-right pipeline study. Yeah, look at this. UCDavis.edu. YouTube video recommendations lead to more extremist content for right-leaning users, researchers suggest. Tested recommendations over time. Let's see. What is this what is this saying here? Let's check for an update real quick. A multidisciplinary or actually here, let's see. YouTube tends to recommend videos that are similar to what people have already watched. New research has found that those recommendations can lead users down a rabbit hole of extremist political content. Now, they just don't want to admit it because that would sound bad. Yeah, but the they in this case is Wikipedia. I guess that shows that the far right media capture is like starting to seep into otherwise reliable sources of information. I legitimately would consider Wikipedia to be a more reliable source of information than something like AP News, the New York Times, or NPR. But yeah, I guess it warrants additional scrutiny as well. So let's see, multidisciplinary research team in communication and computer science at the University of California, Davis, performed a systematic audit of YouTube's video recommendations in 2021 and 22. They tested how a person's ideological leaning might affect what videos YouTube's algorithms recommend to them. For right-leaning users, video recommendations are more likely to come from channels that share political extremism, conspiracy theories, and otherwise problematic content. Recommendations for left-leaning users on YouTube were markedly fewer. This even matches up with my own experiences. It's not, it's not often that personal experience and data collection align so perfectly. But I like, people who know this channel know that I'm like a hardcore anarchist socialist Andy. Like I am John leftism, right? And I'll go on YouTube and I watch leftist political content stuff. I watch The Majority Report, Vash, Hassan, Secular Talk, all those guys, right? Like my political content is almost exclusively left-leaning. Every now and again, I'll get recommended a bunch of right-wing slop. Like YouTube, there's a period of time where YouTube just throws it at me from time to time, and I have to click like don't recommend channel, and even that doesn't solve it sometimes. There is like it's not even for. I appreciate that they added the qualifier of like, oh, obviously it's more for people on the right, but it is not exclusively for people on the right that the right-wing pipeline exists. Everybody gets recommendations for right-wing YouTube political content, but even left-leaning users don't get recommendations for left-leaning political content. That goes for me as well. Yeah. And in fact, I don't know if this is the study that I'm thinking of. Let me read on for a little while. Before I even jump into the worldwides, I want to read this to see if it's the study I'm thinking of. YouTube's algorithm doesn't shield people from content across the political spectrum, said Professor Wojciech. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that is an extremely Polish-looking name. Professor of communication at the in the College of Letters and Science and a corresponding author of the study. However, it does recommend videos that mostly match users' ideology. And for right-leaning users, those videos often come from channels that promote extremism, conspiracy theories, and other types of problematic content. In other words, right-wing people get right-wing recommendations. Let's see. Where is... okay, so there's obviously the self-reinforcing element of this. I want to see... Oh, maybe this isn't the study. Here, hold on. There's a... I forget which study this is. I'll try to find it later. If anybody knows the YouTube channel The Logical Leftist, a smaller news channel, they used to be an affiliate with TYT before TYT fucking crashed out and pivoted to the right, and then they broke off. I remember them. Shoutouts to Logical Leftist. I think they follow me on Twitter, and I follow them. They mentioned as part of their news show, there was a study a year or two ago that showed that not only are people who are slightly right-leaning more likely to get right-leaning content recommended to them on YouTube, but like literally everybody gets recommended that if there's the slightest wedge to do so. And that's for a couple reasons. Number one, a lot of the right-wing content on YouTube is very like masculine coded, you know, like the Fresh and Fit guys and the like Jordan Petersons of the world, and the people who basically use self-help, fitness, and gaming to aestheticize a right-wing politics YouTube channel. Think about the kind of people that would watch fitness content, self-help content, or gaming content on YouTube. It's mostly guys. So even if you're going in with a completely new account, I think this is the methodology that the study used, is that they repeated this method over and over again. They went in with a completely new account with no data for the algorithm to farm off of, and just started watching politically neutral content that did not lean one way or the other in a discernible fashion. And every single time, especially with stuff like sports, gaming, fitness, and self-help, it led to the far-right pipeline. Pretty quickly, too. Like, it did not take that many clicks and that many video viewings for them to land on, okay, this is a right-wing politics YouTube channel. Not necessarily, like, super extreme Nazi channel, because this was back in the day before it had completely consolidated into that, but it did not take long for them to reach the point where they were visibly in that pipeline, you know? So it is bizarre and kind of alarming to me that Wikipedia, in its article about something on the subject, would say multiple studies have found little to no evidence that YouTube's algorithm directs attention towards far-right content to those not already engaged with it. Because from both personal experience and data, that's false. Not necessarily in an absolute sense. They may have picked a few studies, 3 to be exact, they have 3 footnotes. They may have picked 3 studies where they didn't find evidence of that. But nonetheless, it is a lie of omission that all of the data that we know of, apart from, I guess, those 3 footnotes, points to the fact that the right-wing pipeline exists and is very prominent. They can't keep getting away with this. Unfortunately, they can, because one of the other reasons that the right-wing content on YouTube keeps getting boosted to people that aren't necessarily part of the right wing is that they have money. A lot of YouTube channels that are like funded by the right and astroturfed are just that, astroturfed. They're supported by big capital. The same businesses that donate to Republican politicians, that contribute to Fox News, that have a significant role in spinning the narrative, are also pumping money into channels like Joe Rogan and fucking, I don't know, Daily Wire before they fell off, and all sorts of right-wing content creators on YouTube and other platforms. Like, literally, it's a part of the political machine of the right wing that they do that. And it also includes what I've seen a little while ago, is that there's an effort for a slow right-wing takeover of Wikipedia, through them trying to, like, either buy out Wikipedia, like wait till Wikipedia goes bankrupt and buy it out that way because Wikipedia has been struggling for money, or to like get more and more influential donors to support Wikipedia so they can have more influence over what Wikipedia posts and edits and how they present information, you know? I know that they can't keep getting away with this meme, but it's like, I don't know, man. Sometimes it's like, you know, depending on which sources of information kind of like fall to the right wing and whatnot, you know, and to the degree to which they do so, I'm confident in my own ability to still read around that and to read through that and be like, okay, obviously this is the bias that's at play and here's why. But most people don't have, like, even people who remember the world before the right-wing media capture don't have the media literacy skills to do that. And especially, you know, think about all the people that are going to be growing up in a world where the right-wing media capture has already happened. Think about the number of people that are growing up and getting acclimated to the world in the post-facts era. You know? In the era where the fucking right wing just decided to like buy out a bunch of sources of information and force the right wing pipeline down everybody's throat. You know, seeing people makes me sad. It is unfortunate, but again, it's not an immutable fact of the world. Like I said, it wasn't always like this. You know. Let me see if I can find this YouTube video. Yeah, here we go. Here's the video from 9 months ago.
And what is the pattern?
Ah, you guys probably heard that. Look at this. This was reported on NBC as well. This guy is reporting something that NBC also reported on. Shout outs to the logical leftist. Yeah, look, YouTube. This is NBC. Like, this is not some insane lefty news outlet. From 9 months ago, YouTube's algorithm more likely to recommend users right-wing and religious content. Research finds. There you go, Wikipedia. Fucking Jesus. Yeah, got the box. Yeah, it is really strange. It, like, I know, you know, all your teachers in school warned you about, like, using Wikipedia and stuff. And while I think that point is better delivered for, like, literally every source of information and not just exclusively Wikipedia, it is, like, it is a reminder. This is a reminder that that does still also apply to Wikipedia, that all information on the internet is subject to the biases and like potentially conflicting incentives of the people who curate and post that information and stuff like that. Like nothing exists as an unbiased set of facts in a vacuum. Like even the way you present certain facts, if they are cherry-picked, can be extremely dishonest. Because I just went, like, to a few, like, with one Google search, I was able to find, like, half a dozen sources that showed evidence to the contrary of like, what Wikipedia was implying. They didn't necessarily state it outright, but they implied that, like, oh yeah, there's actually no evidence of a far-right pipeline existing, even though they technically didn't say that, right? It's also bizarre just how blatant that is. Like, why would you claim something like that that's so obviously out of step with what the vast majority of research on the subject shows, you know? Like, if you're Wikipedia, I don't know. Somebody ought to edit that. Reminds me of the idea one time I had where I was like, what if we had a villain that never told a lie but still manipulated people? Oh yeah, like lying with incomplete sets of facts, lying by omission. Yeah. It's possible to lie and also say something that is true at the same time. If you are representing the truth in a way to construct a narrative that is like not entirely honest, right? Like you can recount a set of facts that is correct in a way that makes the narrative seem like other than it is, if that makes sense. Lying of a mission was just made out of someone being frustrated. Well, a lie, the more time goes on, the more you realize that a lie is more complicated than just saying something false. It's possible for somebody to say something completely wrong, but to be telling the truth, right? It's possible for somebody to say something that sounds like a lie, but be actually telling the truth because they believe that. For example, a MAGA, like a Trump supporter saying Trump is going to make America great again. Insofar as you can measure that statement in any sort of metrics of like positive indicators of how good life is in America, that's false. But they wouldn't be lying because they believe that, right? Now, a Trump supporter saying that Trump is like, if you have the context that somebody is a Trump supporter and they say, I hate Trump, he's going to destroy this country, you can know for a fact that person is lying. Even though the factual statement they said is true, that Trump is, you know, going to destroy this country, insofar as you can measure that, again, they don't believe the sentence that they've just said. That would be a lie, with them saying something that is true, you know? It's stuff like that that makes it so that like politicians use a lot of like really slimy language, because it's a way to like lie without lying and stuff. Like if you ever see like hearings where people say, "Oh, I don't recall," or something like that, like to the best of my knowledge or to my recollection or whatever, they say that to get away with what is in effect lying, because lying really is about the intent of a statement, right? And with qualifiers like that, the intent of a statement is hard to determine. In fact, prefaces like "to my recollection" and "to the best of my knowledge" or "I don't recall" are non-falsifiable statements. It's impossible to completely verify whether or not somebody actually didn't remember, or like whether they know or not in the moment a certain set of facts, right? And that's the kind of lie well, actually, that's not even the kind of lie that Wikipedia was engaging in there. It's a more clever kind of lie than what Wikipedia did, because Wikipedia just lied by leaving out information that suggests a contrary narrative. By saying multiple studies indicate there is no evidence of a far-right pipeline, what you are implying, the narrative you are building, is no such right-wing pipeline exists. Right? And that has implications of its own. But the truth of the matter is that most studies that are available on the subject indicate, yes, there's actually an overwhelming preponderance of evidence to suggest that this pipeline exists, and it doesn't just affect the right wing. It reaches people who are on the left as well, right? Be like looking at the ocean and saying there's no water. Yeah, it would be like pointing out at the ocean in that direction and saying there's no water there. But when somebody challenges you on that, you say, I was actually pointing to this section of air above the ocean. In that instance, would that not be considered a lie? The answer is yes, it would be considered a lie, because clearly everything that any like human being on Earth has learned throughout their entire lives indicates that if you are pointing in the general direction of a massive body of water, you're pointing at the massive body of water, not to, like, the fucking air above it. You also prove it like the water is in the air. Well, just roll with the example, right? We're using water in the colloquial sense here. You know, it's like, it's just being slimy is what it is, you know? Like, I know you could be like, actually, there's water in, like, all sorts of stuff and whatnot, but the point of the matter is, like, they're pointing, well, you know, they're pointing at a phenomenon that exists, using cherry-picked examples to say this phenomenon doesn't exist, even with an overwhelming body of evidence that the right-wing pipeline, which is the phenomenon in question, does exist, right? That was a close call. Ooh, mushroom. Big fan of that. Nonsensical extremists are weirdly fascinating to watch, like animals. You know what's funny is that there's an entire genre of content for liberals that's like that. You know, like there's an entire section of, like, the centrist political machine that's dedicated to sort of intellectualizing the fascination with Trump supporters, who people view, in many cases rightly so, to be, like, intellectually inferior. You know, with all those, like, the like CNN panels and whatnot, or interviews with Trump supporters, like, why did you vote for Trump? Why do you support such and such? You know, why are you supportive of his after all this time, right? It's easy, it's like lowbrow content for liberals, which is really funny. You know? And of course it's useful in some ways because it serves as a reminder that, look, the people that are being interviewed in these videos, you know, your average Trump supporter, is mostly just a victim of propaganda, right? And it's propaganda so overwhelming that, like, you have to have a extremely large propaganda machine to match it, you know? And of course, lest people get lost in the baggage of the term propaganda. Propaganda is just media that is meant to influence public opinion, which is all media. You know? Humans were naturally like this, human race would have already died. Well, I mean, people have always been naturally like this, in the sense that people are susceptible to propaganda and certain kinds of narratives, and reactionary appeals to insecurity and stuff like that. There's just a giant industrialized, or like, oh, naturally having those beliefs. Yeah, no, none of these beliefs are natural. They have to, like, there are certain impulses that we have that are natural that can lead to these beliefs, but these beliefs on a mass scale have to be manufactured, you know, and maintained through active political effort, which is why the right-wing pipeline exists. The right-wing pipeline exists to try to keep onboarding people to the right when, you know, the alternative would be to let them sort of drift leftwards. There's a natural tendency in times of crisis like this, and, you know, ever since the 80s and 90s, and, well, I mean, I guess throughout all time, whenever there's a systemic crisis, people tend to drift in a direction that's critical of that system. Basically, they tend to drift to the left. A natural response to capitalism being in decay, to use some academic language, is for people to sort of lean into anti-capitalism, be like, hey, hold on a second, you know? The job of the right-wing propaganda machine is to take that anger and prevent it from going in that direction. You know? You know, they on some surface level sympathize with economic insecurity, and then they direct it towards brown people, towards migrants, etc., etc. You know? You get this next item set, and then I'm kind of glad that I got this item box in 4th, because then that lets me do this. Oh, okay. Oh, nice. Ah, nice try, buddy. Oh, shit. Mushroom in 1st. Let's go. Nice. Let's hope he doesn't get a red shell. I would be fucked if that was the case. There's a couple of things that could go wrong in this end section. I just hope that none of them happen. See, if I use this here, I should be fine. Okay, we're good. Sick. There, in my mind, there were 3 things that could have gone really wrong on that last section. Number 1, a POW. Number 2, a shock. Number 3, a blue shell. And given that it's the last section of the race, all 3 of those things are more likely to happen than most other points in the race. But I got away with just using the mushroom at the end. Okay. Oops. I need to do that. Meant to do was this. Yeah, look, watching your Pokemon on a motorcycle reminds me of the slavery Pokemon thing that happened. What? Oh, is that like when there was a fucking... There might be a couple different things. I don't entirely know what you're referring to. I wanted to actually, before I move on to another subject, I did want to read a little bit of that NBC article, just to refer back to where I was talking about with the right-wing pipeline. Oh, when people started talking about that, about Pokemon? Yeah. Yeah. Back when, what was it, that PETA Pokemon fan game, like, was a thing? I remember that. That's part of the reason I've come to appreciate Pokemon Mystery Dungeon more lately, because you play as the Pokemon. You know? Calls the pipelines more like a dam. I mean, I think it's a pipeline because it's a mechanism of transit, right? Kind of. Personally, when I first saw Pokemon, I was like, I don't want to control the Pokemon. I want to beat the Pokemon. To be the Pokemon. Yeah. I got you. Yeah, you know, for a little while, I searched for... I was looking for, like, a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game that had the stat system and the turn-based combat system of the mainline Pokemon games. But unfortunately... or not the combat system, but, like, the... like the... I guess the stat system, you know, like EVs, IVs... and that sort of stuff. Yeah, it would be a difficult game to balance, and I guess that part of the reason Mystery Dungeon, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is the way it is because of, like, those balance issues, yeah, you could make it like Final Fantasy or something. But yeah, needless to say, I couldn't really find anything that fit that bill. Anyways, this NBC article, um, it refers to exactly what I was talking about with the non-political content leading people reliably to the far right. Here, YouTube has a pattern of recommending right-leaning and Christian videos, even to users who haven't previously interacted with that kind of content, according to a recent study of the platform's suggestions to users. The four-part research project conducted by a London-based non-profit org that researches extremism called the Institute for Strategic Dialogue explored video recommendations served to accounts designed to mimic users interested in four topic areas. Gaming, male lifestyle gurus, mommy vloggers, and Spanish language news. So, Telemundo. British version. We wanted to, for the most part, look at topics that don't generally direct people into extremist worlds or anything along those lines. Well, gaming and male lifestyle gurus tend to be a reliable axis. I think if I'm remembering right, I might not be, we'll have to see. The funniest thing might be that, like, the Spanish language one was the only topic that didn't lead to the right-wing pipeline, like, every single time. It's hard to be an atheist these days because everything tries to shove religion down your throat. Yeah, it's hard to... It's kind of difficult to, like... Well, I'm not going to say it's hard to be an atheist because it's not hard for me. But I could see if you were in a very religious environment, then, yeah, being an atheist would kind of... It'd be hard because everybody would like... There's a kind of prevailing assumption of a casual belief in the supernatural that, is... I don't know, it pretty frequently runs up against... not believing in God and in a God figure. And then, like, there's also this is something that hasn't happened to me frequently, but I've kind of just like avoided saying so directly that I'm an atheist to a lot of people. I feel like, well, not even I feel like, I've heard personal testimonials to this effect, although I'm not sure how much data exists on this. You get weird looks and like weird stigma for being an atheist. It's like frowned upon for some reason. Okay, I kind of deserve that. One time at school, somebody was complaining about being atheist right next to me. Damn. Kind of a skill issue. They're really butthurt by your beliefs. Dang it. I wanted that item box. Another atheist? Oh, complaining to you about being atheist. Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha. It felt awkward? I think it's awkward because, like... yeah, little do you know, I am one. Yeah, I don't know. My thoughts aren't, like, super well developed on this subject, but being atheistic is subject to, like, an unreasonable amount of social stigma and, like, social taboo and stuff like that. When, I guess in the context of a very religious society, it makes sense that people don't like that you're not part of a group that believes in a god figure and a religious narrative. But ultimately, you know, I think at its core, it's like, you know, it's one thing to discourage being a reactionary, like wholesale. It's another thing to like, because I know reactionary atheists exist, like the new atheists that became the like modern hyper Christian nationalist far right, which is hilarious. But it's another thing to stigmatize being not reactionary, you know, at the risk of doing a no true Scotsman fallacy thing here, I feel like being atheist necessitates a degree of rational outlook on the world that's like, look, you know, no evidence presented to me suggests that a fucking almighty being determining human fate exists. Also, religion is fucking full of contradictions about, fate versus free will. Somehow both of them existing at the same time doesn't make much sense. And, ultimately my moral or my ethical framework isn't so weak that I need a supernatural divine force to justify why I believe that something is good and something else is bad. You know? Yeah, you could even say they hate me for telling them the truth. This is another reason, actually, that I think Sam Cedar is super based, because he's I guess he describes himself as a Reformed Jew who's not, like, very religious or anything. People will just shout their beliefs in rooms like, hello, I am... hello, people, I am the communist. Yeah, it's true. I don't typically go announcing that. I mean, you could probably tell on my channel, it's presented pretty loudly in a visual sense that I am a socialist on this Twitch channel. And I think it even says as much in my bio. But yeah. Yeah, that's true. People who fit that box are pretty rare, so I guess you tend to hold on to that. Right? For the average person, I could be friends with them, coworkers, but not deeply. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the things. There's a lot of things that contribute to this, but you know, a lot of a continually atomizing society involves elements of like deep distrust of other people, and sometimes that distrust is well founded, right? Between like the really weirdly large amount of stigma that being an atheist entails, versus like as well as a right-wing media machine that encourages people to have peasant brain and whatever. It's like you'll get me deported if they knew what I believe. Yeah, it's very strange to me that there's a level of stigma reserved for being an atheist that not even like Christian nationalists are subjected to, right? Like I can hold the belief that like, oh yeah, religious beliefs are kind of dumb and whatever. Like the concept of an organized religion and religion in general relies on a lot of contradictions and irrationality, etc., etc. But that doesn't necessarily mean I have a problem with every religious person on the planet. You know, people are people. You do what you can, etc. Which I think is a pretty fucking mild view as far as being an atheist goes. Like there are people with way fucking edgier views than me, right? Who are also atheists, and that will earn me some like side-eye and like condemnation and such. But then a Christian nationalist could believe that somebody like me will go to hell and should be tormented for all eternity for not submitting to a paternalistic god figure who wants women to be subjugated in the household and who wants queer people to all conform or die, etc., etc. And like they would receive less stigma for holding those beliefs than I would for being an atheist in a general societal sense, right? like put it this way, right? The level of societal bias is such that, like, if you were on your resume, you're writing a resume, right? You could bring up the fact that, like, oh yeah, I grew up in a very religious context, so I value such and such and such and such, right? You can use your religious identity to sort of tell a story about yourself in a casual sense, in a manner that's, like, kosher for the workplace. If I were to put the fact that I'm an atheist and that's influenced a lot of the decisions that I've made and the way I think about life and stuff like that, I would never get hired for anything. You know? And this goes all the way, this from the bottom to the top, you know? There are Christian nationalists who can become president. You know, Trump fits, like, as much as Trump is a grifter and whatever, he partially ran to a Christian nationalist audience. Ironically, Trump being kind of the closest thing to an atheistic president that we've ever had, but, like, you can run a Christian nationalist platform, like an openly religious nationalism-oriented platform, and win the presidency of the United States. You would never be able to do that if you ran a platform that incorporated your identity as not believing in a God figure, you know? Yeah, it's like, you know, it's a much less severe version of having to be, like, in the closet for any given reason or number of reasons, right? Like with minorities that have to hide their identity from the state or from any sort of employer or whatnot. You know, like the Roma face a lot of discrimination in Europe. Again, way less severe if you're an atheist than if you're Roma in Europe. You know? Yeah, and it's not fun doing that. And I want to emphasize that, like, as annoying as it is, that being an atheist carries with it the social stigma of like literally not being able to be hired for stuff because they'll be kind of like, you're an atheist, and you feel the need to tell us that, you know. It does not compare to the fucking horrid experience of like of having to be queer and closeted, or like having to hide your ethnic identity for fear of like being deported or sent to a concentration camp or whatever, you know. Like, it's small peanuts compared to that, but it's one thing that I've noticed that, like, you know, a weird amount of stigma is reserved for at a sort of pedestrian level, right? Feel like it's going in that direction. Well, from what data we have, religiosity is still on the decline, so we're actually headed in the opposite direction towards a society that's a little bit more open towards the concept of just not believing in a god. As much as like reactionism and irrationality has had a resurgence lately, it's sort of it's sort of a secular, a more secular irrational surge than in past like centuries. And additionally, one of the reasons that so much news is being made for the, like, oh my god, the fucking fascist controlled federal government is doing horrible things, is because the attitudes of society at large are already pretty progressive and accepting, and it's hard to put that back in a bottle. You know, like, historians often say the phrase that, like, you can't put the genie back into the bottle. Once societies are accepting of queer people, or are more open towards the concept of not believing in a god or believing in a different kind of god or whatever, right? Or being from another country and you moved here or something like that. You can't very easily take that public opinion and, like, deprogressivize, you know, the public. Even with this massive media apparatus, you can go up to your average Trump supporter and ask them their opinion on gay people, and they'll say some canned line from Fox News about how there's groomers coming for your kids or whatever, or how trans people are pedos. But and then but then they'll also bring up like, oh, I've got a cousin who's gay and he just wants to be left alone, and I respect that, right? That core feeling is almost impossible to put back in the bottle. You know? Getting ads now for Republican Center. Please don't take away your healthcare. You had 3 wishes from a genie. What decision would you pick for socialism? Oh man, that's difficult. Like if a genie appears, like you have 3 wishes, and my objective in mind is to be like, okay, I want to advance the world towards socialism. What do I pick? What do I wish for? Fuck, man, I don't know. Okay, here's the thing. Here's what I want. My one wish, wish number 1, I want the fascists to, like, if this is a fucking D&D roll, right? You're rolling a 10-sided die or a 20-sided die, and like I want the fucking fascists to roll a 1 every single time. You know? And I mean, that's close enough to what they're already doing, because a lot of fascists are not competent enough to like actually see their goals through, or to actually competently act to seize the kind of control that they want. Like, they always fuck it up at some stage in the process in some way. It's like basically inevitable. But I guess just to hasten that process. Like, if this is a 20-sided die roll, I want the fascists to be... You know, sometimes they roll like a 5 or a 6, which is still bad, but it's not like the worst outcome for them. I want them to be rolling 1s every single time. That's wish number 1. Wish number 2 and 3, I actually don't know yet, though. I don't know. 3 wishes is a tall ask. You know, for advancing a whole-ass political movement. Like, if I'm thinking about that. Okay. Here's wish number 2, right? Wish number 2... I wish there would be more media pundits that are based enough that they blatantly get fired. Wish to never have anything like the stock market. Oh yeah, eventually, like, I would like the stock market to be banned, but I don't want that to happen as a product of like a genie's wish, because I believe that that's like, I don't want to do something that like fundamentally alters or skips several steps. I just want to like hasten the process, basically, is what I'm getting at, right? We've seen, and that's the logic for wish number 2 as well. We've seen in the past that like whenever pundits get too based for the comfort of whichever news outlet they are employed by or contributing to, the news just fires them. And they're like, yeah, you're fired, like abruptly, after you say this thing that is like objectively correct, but undermines our interest in our alignment with like you know, the shareholders and the military-industrial complex and that sort of shit, right? We've seen that happen piecemeal. So what I want is for more of that to happen. I want more anchors on more news outlets to like have a random moment of clarity and profess how much the like mass media, like for-profit media ecosystem is a load of bullshit, and the American people are like being, or not just the American people, the people of the world are being put to sleep because, you know, the corporate overlords control everything they see and hear. And I want them to get so blatantly fired and buried for it that it becomes impossible to deny that they were right. You know? Think of what happened with Luigi Mangione, where the politics of the act were undeniable. They were undeniably pro-working class, anti-owning class, and pointed out the division between the classes, right? And everything the news tried to do to demonize Luigi Mangione after the fact only solidified that the politics of the act were very sympathetic to a lot of people. I want that to happen like times 1,000. Not, again, if any of the moderators and censors are watching, not for people to get killed, for people to participate in constructing that narrative of well, the mass media ecosystem being a load of bullshit that's designed to maximize shareholder value, and then for them to get fired because that aggravates people's sentiments enough for them to care about it more. You know? That's switch number 2. Sorry, the leaked DMs. Yes, that's part of the title. But first I want to get through this NBC article. I never did get back to that. Fucking ADHD these days has been leading me around by the nose. I'll read the, there's a portion of this article that I want to read, and then I can talk about the fucking leaked Signal DMs from the like, top U.S. administration officials of all things, which is a wild fucking sentence to say. The group chat got leaked, except instead of Discord, it's fucking Signal, and instead of random edgy like online micro celebs, it's fucking the most powerful people in government. They get so mad when you question anything. Yeah. Anyways. Let's see. Oh yeah, this study notes that the YouTube algorithm drives 70% of all video views. Imagine that. The YouTube recommendation algorithm is responsible for 70% of all view traffic, which is insane. I hope I didn't hit that guy. It looks like I didn't, so that's good. Makes sense the average person doesn't use the search bar. Yeah, and the search function has gotten really bad lately, which I'm not a fan of. You know, I'm really not. Oh. Alright, you got me. Nice going, Mehmet. Let me just hope that he didn't get a mushroom. He didn't. Alright. Let's see. Mock personas, let's see. Oh, yeah. Researchers created accounts and built mock user personas by searching for content, subscribing to channels, and watching videos using those accounts. So basically, they simulated new users going on to YouTube. After having built personas for 5 days, 5 days is all this took, of like, watching a bunch of YouTube. Researchers recorded the video recommendations displayed on each account's homepage for a month. In one investigation, the most frequently recommended news channel for both child and adult accounts interested in male lifestyle guru content was Fox News, even though neither account had watched Fox News during the persona building stage. Instead, the accounts watched Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson and searched for the term alpha male. So they did a little bit of work on this pipeline already. Makes me glad I'm like zero masculinity. Yeah, there are ways to be masculine in a not extremely fucking cringe and dumb way, but that ain't it. I actually have to let go of the A button because for some reason my thumb got snagged on the cord between my controller and my Wiimote. In another experiment, The researchers created 2 accounts interested in mommy vloggers. Oh, okay, so it's not like muscle mommy stuff. I thought it was gonna be that. My brain is too internet poisoned, it seems. It's mothers who vlog. I guess is exactly what it sounds like. They make video diaries about their life being a parent. That they train to have different political biases. Okay, so these are 2 different accounts that both watch the same kind of apolitical content, but they carefully crafted to have different underlying political biases. So let's see what the results of that was. One of the accounts watched Fox News and the other watched MSNBC. All right. Despite having watched their respective channels for an equal amount of time, the right-leaning account was later more frequently recommended Fox News than the left-leaning account was recommended MSNBC. And there is a not insignificant part of the far-right pipeline. Everybody is recommended right-wing content more frequently than they are recommended left-wing content. Even if you are like have that straightforwardly as like a bias in your content consumption, where you watch like left-leaning content creators and stuff, you will still sometimes not get recommended your preferred content creators and instead get recommended politically neutral or right-wing content, you know? Whereas if you're on the right, it keeps recommending to you right-wing content over and over and over again, and you never get recommended left-leaning content. Or almost never. Mommy Vlogger account that the left-leaning user had already subscribed to was the most recommended channel. So they weren't getting any recommendations outside of what they were already subscribed to, mostly. These results suggest that right-leaning news content is more frequently recommended than left-leaning, the study said. So this is more of a qualitative study. Both accounts were also recommended videos by an anti-vaccine influencer. Both of them got the, like, insane anti-vax conspiracy recommendations. So there you go. Yeah, you have to go looking for the left-wing politics channels. That's why a lot of times, sometimes I think about, like, on YouTube, how do left-leaning channels even grow? Sometimes I sympathize with left-wing creators who try to kind of, like, obscure their politics under 1 or 2 layers of content-friendly, like, clickbait thumbnails and stuff like that, because YouTube, like, if YouTube detects that your content is left-leaning or has that kind of political bias, straight up it's less likely to recommend people that stuff. Maybe be like Mr. V and be controversial. Vosh is actually a good example of this, where a lot of the titles and thumbnails are increasingly, like, non-specific, and the content of his videos hasn't changed much in the several years that I've been watching him. He still provides the same very left-leaning, like, mode of analysis, where he analyzes things from a materialist lens, and he's a socialist and whatnot. None of that has changed, but the presentation has to be able to fit YouTube's algorithm to drive traffic to it, So, like, the titles are more tailored to that sort of stuff. Does that make sense? He just doesn't do debates anymore. Yeah, and I totally sympathize with his reason for not doing debates as well, because, anybody who was here to watch me react to the Jubilee debate panel featuring Sam Cedar, the most based man in America, possibly, knows exactly how that went, especially with a right-wing media ecosystem that is completely dominated by grift and lack of real belief. Probably sold. Using that a lot. What? Oh, yeah. I mean the what makes the right-wing grift ecosystem what it is that there's a ton of money pumping through it, And for a lot of people, their beliefs are up for sale fundamentally. Like that's what's up. Dude, who's this Carter? He's really. I think this Carter has thrown 2 shells at me, and they've both been extremely close to hitting. They are, they know their shit. Is the pipeline against itself by using debates at first? I don't know. I don't know if that's how it works or, like, I think it was just, like, the controversy shit. Like, people kind of attracted to the edgy internet persona and stuff like that. I don't know if I have the sauce for that, per se, but we'll see. Let's see. Moving on here. How long is this article? It's not super long. Okay. Jesse Daniels, a professor of sociology at Hunter College, part of the City University of New York, and the author of a 2018 article called The Algorithmic Rise of the Alt-Right, said the project's main findings were in line with her previous research. She has examined the rise of the internet in the 1990s and how the far-right saw an opening to share its beliefs with larger audiences by bypassing the traditional media gatekeepers. Okay, so this is like... Basically, there's been a compendium of research, not just on YouTube, but on the concept of the internet and a different like way of media propagation, and like it's like, yeah, the way the internet exists as this sort of anonymized collection of forums and platforms enables the far right to spread its views very effectively because they sort of have the passive permission of the owning class to do so, where there's still a lot of stigma against the left. Daniels said she believes the findings that YouTube has made continued engagement and profits its top priorities rather than concerns around reinforcing... She believes the findings suggest that YouTube has made continued engagement and profits its top priorities rather than concerns around reinforcing existing political biases or echo chambers. Yeah, I think that tracks. Yeah, the far right pipeline wasn't necessarily specifically designed, right? It just so happens that the right wing is the faction with all the money. Yeah, they do it passively. Because like the people that own and run and have a stake in the success of YouTube, the shareholders, the investors, and like the CEO, whoever else, right? They will be kind of teeth-grittingly okay with right-wing content because it doesn't threaten their ability to make money, to make profit. But left-wing content does. It's all like comes back to the passive way that the owning class sort of reinforces their position versus the working class. The left being the politics of class consciousness and class conflict from the working class this time. They're gonna always be like organically disfavored in online platforms that are owned and run for the purpose of engagement and profit and stuff. Yeah, like, we're not getting... it's not so blatant as, like, warning, if you watch this video, you are engaging in wrongthink, we will send you to Gulag, or whatever, right? But left-leaning content creators get strikes more frequently than right-leaning content creators. Right-leaning content creators will get, like, let off the hook really frequently for blatant violations of terms of service because they drive engagement, and that's good for the bottom line of the platform, Left-wing content also tends to be less dumb and a little bit more introspective and critically aware, so it'll get less traffic than right-wing reactionary content because it's like it's easily consumable slop that is designed to not, like, well, maybe not design, but like what I'm trying to say is that the YouTube algorithm benefits short form stupidity, which is a perfect format for the right wing, and not super compatible with the left. Because the left is not stupid and the right is. Feel sorry for the left on TikTok? Yeah. Yeah, TikTok was an interesting window into what the left would look like if it were really dumb sometimes. Here we go. Videos with religious themes, primarily Christianity, were also recommended to all the accounts, even though none of them had watched religious content during the persona building stage. That's interesting. YouTube has an overt, like, pro-Christian bias. The accounts interested in mommy vloggers, for example, were shown videos with Bible verses. Ah, yeah, it's sort of the assumption that you're a Christian by default, and it makes sense that the mommy vloggers, like the accounts that watch the mommy vloggers, were primarily recommended, like more so than the other ones, the videos with the Bible verses and stuff, because of all the emphasis about submitting to the husband being like religious doctrine and shit. The psychosexual undercurrent runs strong with this one. Researchers also found that YouTube recommended videos including sexually explicit content to the child account, and videos featuring influencer Andrew Tate, who has been charged with human trafficking and rape in Romania, even though he is banned from the platform. That I did not remember. Yikes, YouTube. You gonna address that ever? YouTube literally funneling kids into the Andrew Tate world. Yeah, the far right gets a lot more excuses to break the rules. For example, fronting sexually explicit content to kids. I guess that's how all the 11-year-olds got immersed into Andrew Tate and shit. They were getting fed that by the YouTube recommendations. Like, we're in one of those corny shows where we're dealing with sheep people. I mean, yeah. I mean, people... Again, it's gonna sound corny, but people are, like, a herd of animals where it's, like, hard for them to be aware of their larger surroundings, especially when, like, it's not like the reactionary meme about wake up sheeple where you put all the onus on like the one person for not realizing this shit sooner. Like, there's a whole ass machine that YouTube is a part of that is designed to like keep people in a state of critical unawareness and to like just keep people chugging along and like, you know, don't worry about it as we're feeding you recommendations of these Nazi aligned YouTubers. I'll grab this. Ow. I didn't even see that. In fact, I was trying to steer wide of him on the off chance that happened, but oh well. Heading into this year's presidential race, this was a while ago, concerns about the spread of election misinformation on social media are only growing. In 2022, a study by researchers at NYU found that after the last presidential election, YouTube recommended videos that push voter fraud claims to Trump supporters. So this was, you know, again, part of YouTube being integrated into that far-right pipeline. Part and parcel of that is misinformation. Yeah. Yeah, it is getting to that point. There's a sort of, in the same way that there's a sort of assumption of being Christian in the YouTube algorithm, it's starting to look like there's an assumption that people are just right-wing by default. And that's a self-reinforcing process, you know? The only reason that enough people are right-wing for that to be an assumption is because the algorithm has contributed to that. The algorithm made that. You know, like this article stipulated earlier with the research from the 90s and the early internet, part of the reason that the far right is as big as it is right now is because it was enabled by the internet. By websites like this, you know? But yeah, that took a lot longer than I thought it would. It just based on a like weird thing that I saw where Wikipedia, of all places, Wikipedia was saying like, oh yeah, several studies have found that there's no evidence that the far right pipeline exists. In the face of an orgy of evidence that the far right pipeline exists. Now I can get to the main feature that unfortunately I was away for this happening and wasn't able to come back until today to streaming. Have you ever noticed that the Jedi have a super conservative religion, even if it's not like Christianity? I have noticed that. And in fact, there are messianic elements similar to Christianity. I'm sure that was actually an intention. If you know the politics of George Lucas, you know that was probably intentional. But the title of the stream it includes what I'm talking about, which is the fucking Signal group chat that got leaked recently. We only know about what was going on because it was leaked. Part of the reason that they use Signal to begin with is because in government there are certain laws about recording the actions of any department or branch of government. You know, like even if some top secret shit happens, that information has to be recorded and stored, right? For the purposes of bookkeeping and whatnot. But, you know, with both malice and a perfect combination of both malice and incompetence drove the Trump administration, these particular officials, to be like, hey, what if we just use Signal instead so that we can delete all the information after, not realizing probably that Signal is a commercially available app that several teenagers have been able to hack and like get access to people's conversations, but that didn't even need to happen because they accidentally fucking added a journalist to the group chat. Literally, they were discussing, okay, the contents of this group chat are fucking hilarious. It's like unreal how blatant it is and how like egregious it is. They talked about two things mainly. They talked about airstriking Yemen, right? Which was resulted in a mass casualty, like mass civilian death airstrike, and how much they fucking hate Europe. Those were the two main things that they talked about in the group chat. And of course, everybody knows about the, you know, the classic, the guy that communicates exclusively through emojis. Apparently that guy is top national security advisor for the United States. Let's take a look at this article. Here. Is that Elon Musk? No, it was Mike Waltz. Elon Musk was not a part of this group chat. Funnily enough. Okay. So, The Atlantic published the group chat. But, here's something, right? First thing I want to do is go to Ken Klippenstein. One of the journalists I respect probably more than anybody else. One of my most respected journalists. Certified homie. Man has been targeted by the FBI a couple times, which is how you know that you are succeeding in your job as a journalist. most likely. Oh, it seems that this post maybe has been deleted. Is that right? Let's see here. Yeah, the FBI's like, this person is too based. Yeah, okay, those posts have been deleted. Yeah, Dr. King, Fred Hampton, you know, there's a distinguishable pattern here that when somebody's too base, that they get got by the FBI. But yeah, Ken Klippenstein actually deleted the post I was going to refer to, presumably because more information came out and this was like updated since then. Initially, The Atlantic actually, the journalist that was part of this group chat, I think his name's Jeff Goldberg, specifically decided, you know what, some of this information is sensitive and classified, so I'm not going to publish it. Like, brother, you are a journalist. Your job is to publish that highly secret information. You know, like that legitimately I would consider that a breach of ethics on the part of The Atlantic. Now, of course, they said that, like, it includes, like, the fucking names of some, like, undercover ops who could get killed as a result of this. But ultimately, I think, like, there's a consideration there that people... or at least people who succumb to conventional wisdom fail to consider that, like, that's not a skill issue on the journalist part. Like, that's not your problem if you're the journalist in that situation. That's the fucking problem of the administration who decided to use Signal for top secret military shit. Like, that's on them, you know? At that point, like, it's your job is to share that shit and be like, holy shit, they discussed all of this in the group chat. Like, not even some secure backroom whatever where they just happened to not record anything. Like, no, they did this on Signal. You know? But anyways, I was going to comment more on that, because I think the reason they did that is precisely because of the fact that, you know, we live in a world of access journalism. It probably would have got the journalists in trouble, probably would have gotten Jeff Goldberg in more trouble to do real journalism than to, like, strategically hold back. But it's kind of a moot point at this stage, because they released the full group chats. All of them. Let's copy, paste. Let's see if this current article is any good. Here are the attack plans. This is from The Atlantic. Here are the attack plans that Trump's advisors shared on Signal. The administration has downplayed the importance of the text messages inadvertently sent to the Atlantic's editor-in-chief. Yeah, okay, Jeffrey Goldberg. Got it. That's the guy. On Monday, shortly after we published a story about a massive Trump administration security breach, a reporter asked the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, why he had shared plans about the forthcoming attack on Yemen on the Signal messaging app. He answered, nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Me when I fucking lie. At a Senate hearing yesterday, or been like Lois Lane from My Adventures with Superman. Yeah, I would have gone fucking ballistic over that. You'd like gone rabid and been like, publish that shit on every like telephone pole in the city. You know? At a Senate hearing yesterday, which I think now would have been a couple days ago, like 2 or 3 days ago, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and the Director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, were both asked about the Signal chat, to which Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, was inadvertently invited by the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. Like, he just fucking got handed that shit on a silver platter. You know? There was no classified material that was shared on Signal Group. Gabbard told members of the Senate Intelligence Committee. She was lying through her teeth. I've seen some highlights of the hearing. It was great. She's like, no, there's nothing classified here. I can't share with you why, like, what it was, though, because that's classified. Got him. Damn it, didn't get a box. Ratcliffe said much the same. My communications, to be clear, in the signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information. If you're communicating via signal group chat, then it's not lawful communication in the federal government. Everything you do has to be recorded. That's how the government works. By virtue of them using Signal for anything official, classified or otherwise, they're already breaking the law. President Trump asked yesterday afternoon about the same matter and said it wasn't classified information. There you go. Trump said it. It must be true. He tried lying. He rolled the 3. Yeah, true. These statements presented us with a dilemma. And why did it present the Atlantic with a dilemma? Do we say the administration is lying? The answer is yes. The fact that that's even a question. All right. In the Atlantic's initial story about the Signal chat, the Houthi PC small group, as it was named by Waltz, not Waltz, we withheld specific information related to weapons and to the timing of attacks that we found in certain texts. Pussies. As a general rule, we do not publish information about military operations if that information could possibly jeopardize the lives of U.S. personnel. Pussies! That's the administration's problem, not yours. You're a fucking news outlet. Your job is to publish that shit. Yeah, that's their skill issue, not yours. Like, you choosing not to publish it now makes it a skill issue on your part that you didn't, like, publish the information about, like, the timing of this attack and whatnot. You know? Because it's important to convey how serious that shit is. That, like, they were just discussing this in Signal. That, again, I will reiterate, a fucking teenager could with some rudimentary, like, fucking key logging and whatever kind of skills gain access to. It literally, like, imagine you're in your Discord DM saying, like, okay, where are we airstriking again? But you're talking about it in real life. Yeah, like, if that information being leaked is endangering to fucking U.S. personnel, then that's not on you because the information already leaked. How do you think it got to the news? You know? Anyways. Also, I get the feeling that since they're simps for the military-industrial complex, part of the reason they want to be non-specific is to not convey that, like, mass civilian death occurred. Would have been more honest if he said I'm a simp for Republicans. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't think Jeffrey Goldberg, like, specifically, is a simp for Republicans, but I do think he's, like, very conventional wisdom, like 1990s civility politics pilled, like many other prominent journalists in the field who deal in access journalism. Anyways, let's see. It says the statements made by Hegseth, Gabbard, Ratcliffe, and Trump, combined with the assertions by numerous administration officials that we are lying about the content of the Signal text, have led us to believe that people should see the text in order to reach their own conclusions. Again, pussies, you should just say, no, actually, they're lying. Like, why does it always have to be like, you know what, you can reach your own conclusions? Why can't you just fucking say, like, no, actually, they're lying and we have the receipts to prove it? Like, I repeat again, that's your job as a journalist, is to say, like, oh, hey, you know all these fucking dishonest schmucks who are in power and, like, conducting top secret conversations about airstriking civilians over a goddamn commercial group chat? Like, yeah, they're lying to you. You know, shocker of the century, but they're lying. Yeah, it's spineless is what it is. Even when they're handed this on a silver platter, they still find a way to fuck it up. At least somehow. In some measure. There's a clear public interest in disclosing the sort of information that Trump advisors included in non-secure communications channels, especially because senior administration figures, are attempting to downplay the significance of the messages that were shared. Experts have repeatedly told us that use of signal chat for such sensitive discussions poses a threat to national security. And this is where I wanted to get to saying that, like, national security is dead and global capitalism killed it. You know, national security is sort of a relic of a non-globalized world, you know, from a world where, like, even with nation states being primarily acting in favor of their capital class, they would still have reliably different enough interests that national security would be a valid concern. That the United States wanting to do XYZ because it's good for American business interests would conflict with, I don't know, China wanting to do something else because it's good for their business interests. Like, the two different national sets of business interests used to not be completely aligned, but right now they are, like, because capital is international, you know. Sometimes at a meeting trying to help people get jobs, talking about people who help people who are helpless or homeless, and showed like a normal looking black kid. That's fucked up. That's actually really weird. But they did actually, to their credit, they did actually publish the text. I know, shocker. They did the bare minimum when they were handed, like, this fucking massive, like, extreme breach of the law on a silver platter. They actually published some of the information that was, like, them blatantly breaking the law. Like, damn, shocker. You know, although with the framing that the Atlantic has used for this, I actually am a little bit surprised that they decided to, like, leak these texts at all. Yeah, it's not like they're gonna suffer any consequences, right? Like, there's not gonna be any accountability for some of the most illegal shit that you could do if you're part of the federal government. Let's see. Let's read the text. Let's see what they were talking about. At 11:44 a.m. Eastern Time on March 15th, Hegseth posted in the chat, in all caps, team update. The text beneath this began, time now, 11:44 ET. Weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are go for mission launch. CENTCOM, or Central Command, is the military's combatant command for the Middle East. The Hegseth text continues. Yeah, they might as well shout from the rooftops, "I'm fucking invincible!" Like the one guy from Metal Gear Rising, who's also the easiest boss in the game. The text continues, 12:15 ET, F-18's launch, first strike package. 13:45. Trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch, MQ-9s. Okay, so they're launching jets and drones to strike some guy. Let's underscore a point. The signal message shows the U.S. Secretary of Defense texted a group that included a phone number unknown to him. Goldberg's cell phone. Literally, like, there's a fucking unknown number in the group chat. You're texting out the details of, like, a Central Command military operation in the Middle East. And we're getting to see it after the fact. Let's fucking go, baby. 11:44 a.m. This was 31 minutes before United States warplanes launched. And 2 hours and 1 minute before the beginning of a period in which a primary target, a Houthi quote-unquote target terrorist, so it was like, I don't know, some ranking official, I guess, was expected to be killed by these American aircraft. So this was like an actual fucking airstrike with drones. If this text had been received by somebody hostile to American interests, or someone merely indiscreet, with access to social media, the Houthis would have had time to prepare for what was meant to be a surprise attack on their strongholds. That's the takeaway? Damn. You know, if this information got out, it would have been harder for us to airstrike that apartment building. Like, wow, really, really great takeaway, really great priorities, Atlantic. How about instead of that, you focus on the fucking wider implications that this is not the first time that they've done this, and it, like, probably won't be the last since they faced no accountability for doing it, and, like, it is fucking extremely dangerous, not just to, like, U.S. OPSEC in a military sense, but also to, like, any potential, like, civilians in the area, or like regarding I don't know. I mean, I guess the United States has ended all foreign aid. Consequence for American pilots could have been catastrophic. It is. I will say this. It is a severe display of incompetence. Like, probably the worst display of incompetence in American history. The Hegseth text then continued. 1410, more F-18s launch. Second strike package. Excuse me. I keep mixing up my S's and C's and stuff. 1415, strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. 1536, F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched. More to follow per timeline. We are currently clean on OPSEC, that is, operational security. Big doubt. Godspeed to our warriors. Shortly after, Vice President J.D. Vance texted the group, I will say a prayer for victory. At 1:48 p.m., Mike Waltz sent the following text containing real-time intelligence about conditions on an attack site, apparently in Sana'a. VP building collapsed. Had multiple positive ID. Pete Carilla and the IC, amazing job. Waltz was referring here to Hegseth, General Michael Carilla, and the commander, or who is the commander of Central Command, and the intelligence community, or IC. The reference to multiple positive IDs suggests the U.S. intelligence had ascertained the identities of the Houthi targets using either human or technical assets. Running out of things to say about the Republicans. Yeah, it is just like, imagine every bad thing that has ever been written about a character in media that you can remember from, like, your childhood for the purpose of extremely simple and digestible, like, education on what's good and what's bad. Like, imagine all the bad things that could ever be communicated about somebody in that form, and Republicans are all of those. You know? Like, they are just the bad guys, TM, you know? Let me round this corner. Oh, shit. Oh, that got both of them? I'm in first now. Oh, wow. That shock came at a really good time. 6 minutes later, the vice president, apparently confused by Waltz's message, wrote, what? At 2 p.m., Waltz responded, typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy, we had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and now it collapsed. So they fucking drone striked an apartment building to get one guy and killed a bunch of civilians in the process. Vance responded a minute later. Excellent. 35 minutes after that, Ratcliffe, the CIA director, wrote a good start, which Waltz followed with a text containing a fist emoji, an American flag emoji, and a fire emoji. The Houthi run Yemeni Health Ministry. Great. Love my fucking definitely not biased journalistic framing from the Atlantic. At least 53 people were killed in the strikes. Later that afternoon, Hexeth posted, CENTCOM is on point. Notably, he then told the group that the attacks would be continuing. Great job all, more strikes ongoing for hours tonight, and we'll provide full initial report tomorrow, but on time, on target, and good readouts so far. Walking to the meeting, I'm supposed to go, just so it'll take me 2 hours and 30 minutes. Yeah, maybe don't do that. Thus concludes the text that that they release. Oh, here were the members of this group chat. Says you next to Jeffrey Goldberg's initials. Mike Waltz, who is the admin. Scott B. Walker Barrett. Brian and then Brian again. Pete Hegseth. Jacob. Dan Katz. Joe Kent. SM MAR again. Mike Needham. John Ratcliffe. Susie Wiles again. TG. JD Vance. Steve Witkoff. And Alex Wong. And those were all the people who were in this Signal group chat at the time of this. And of course, they're making a bigger deal about like the potential Americans that could have been endangered in this operation to kill civilians, and the fact that like 50 fucking civilians were killed. At least. I thought I remembered it being like in the neighborhood of 100 something, but that could be just me, or I could have seen that number somewhere else. I don't know. We'll say at least 50 because of the numbers provided in the article. By the Houthi-run health ministry in Yemen. Great. Cool. Or something. It's kind of like how they say the Hamas-run Gaza health ministry every time they talk about how many Palestinians have killed, as a sort of way to be like, do we even know that they're all dead? You know? It's the same thing. Whenever they use that framing device, they do that. You know, memories have their own version of autocorrection. I didn't know that per se. I did know that each time you remember something, you're actually remembering the last time you remembered it rather than the event itself. Which is why, like, you forget shit because you don't, like, remember it super frequently. So the data, like, fades over time or something like that. I don't know. I knew about that, which was interesting to me. I'm gonna get an item here. Nice. And I got first on... Okay, never mind. Maybe I didn't. Okay, yeah. It's process to fill out the gaps. Ah, that's interesting. Even with that massive fuck up at the end, I still got first on DK Summit with Birdo / Ampharos. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's more so, I think this is actually... It's good for radicalizing people against the administration because of the amount of double talk they had to do, like double speak they had to do to like fucking explain and or cover for this. You know? Like, this is such a gross display of incompetence. Oh, here's the part. This is the best part. Here's the part where they talk about how much they fucking hate Europe. Where is it? Okay, okay. Alright. There's a point where they, like, pivot. Yeah. Here, okay. Let's see here. There's the only way I can get there by walking 2 hours and 30 minutes. Shit, dude. That sucks. They talk a little bit about, like, trade and stuff. Part of the reason that the United States is so... They're not usually good at making up lies on the spot. Yeah, they're really not. Part of the reason that the United States is focusing on the Houthis so hard, first off, is because the Houthis are like... I guess first and foremost is because the Houthis are blocking trade in the Red Sea, and the United States basically just wants the spice to keep flowing and stuff, you know? That's what America wants in situations like this. And that trade particularly goes to the Mediterranean. You know, the Red Sea is right next to the Mediterranean. It goes from the Indian Ocean to Europe. This, you know, very well-traveled ocean trade route. So that's the reason that the United States is bombing Yemen, bombing Houthi targets, as well as, like, blowing up civilians, because they really, really want those ships to keep moving, right? And the product to keep being transported. And because of that, they pivot to talking about Europe and the United States' trade relationship to Europe because, you know, tariffs, etc., etc. And they start talking about just how much they fucking hate Europe. Like, it genuinely, I think that the hate for Europe is genuine because of how openly they just sort of let it spill through, you know? Like, I do think they're just being sort of candid with one another in this instance, and like, you know. Oh, I'm surprised I got him. Ooh, shit. They always rely on hate. Yeah, it does reinforce sort of the reason that the pivot away from Europe is happening is just because they hate liberal democracies and they like fascist dictatorships. That's the reason that, you know, all the tariffs are primarily coming down on allies and trade partners. And you know, a little bit of it came down on China as well, is because, you know, they want to do the whole, like, oh, CCP bad stuff, but more than that, they really hate the countries that America has been allied with for decades. Let's see. Team, I'm out for the day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we were making a mistake. 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez. 40% of European trade does. So they're saying that, like, why are we helping Europe in this instance? This is keeping trade lanes open mostly for them. There's a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. Strongest reason to do this, as POTUS said, to send a message. I'm not sure how the president's aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. Further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. So basically, we also need to keep the oil machine in the Middle East churning and protect Saudi Arabia's interests. Fucking Saudi Aramco moment. I'm willing to support the consensus of the team and keep these concerns myself, but there's a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging, work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc. That was JD Vance. And then, who's this? Joe Kent. Joe Kent says, there's nothing time-sensitive driving the timeline. We'll have the exact same options in a month. Israelis will likely take strikes and therefore ask us for more support to replenish whatever they use against the Houthis, but that's a minor factor. I will send you the unclassed data we pulled on BAM shipping. John Ratcliffe says, from the CIA perspective, we're mobilizing assets to support now, but a delay would not negatively impact us, and additional time would be used to identify better starting points for coverage on Houthi leadership. So basically, like, we can take a month, it's fine. Pete Hegseth says to the VP, I understand your concerns and fully support you raising with the president. Important considerations, most of which are tough to know how they play out. Economy, Ukraine peace, Gaza, etc. I think messaging is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we should stay focused on 1, Biden failed, and 2, Iran funded. So they're discussing messaging here, basically like, what slop do we feed the fucking MAGA piggies? And just say like, oh yeah, just say it was like Biden's fault or something, and mention Iran, and they'll probably be fine. Okay, good. I didn't hit that guy. some reason fascists always need wars. That is true. It's the fascists do need an enemy. They need a crisis. They need a good war to gin up support. They can't maintain... Fascists cannot exist in peacetime. The nature of a fascist ideology necessitates a crisis. It relies on it to keep people in a state of irrationality fervent enough that they will acquiesce to certain, like, extraordinary, like, authoritarian power grabs. They treat their own supporters as subhuman. Surprised anyone falls for this. Because they fear their base, and so they're careful on how they sell this to their supporters. You know? And they have a giant media apparatus that does a lot of the hard work for them. More of like, oh yeah, waiting for a few weeks is probably fine. If we prepared to execute, and if I had to go for them to go or no-go vote, I believe we should. This is not about the Houthis. I see it as two things. Restoring freedom of navigation, core national interests, and reestablish deterrence. Which Biden cratered, he says. Of course, blame Biden for everything. Despite the fact that the bombing of the Houthis started during Biden's presidency, or really ramped up during Biden's presidency, when they started to block the trade routes in the Suez, not in the Suez Canal, in the Red Sea. What they mean here is killing more civilians. We're talking about how much trade comes through the Red Sea versus elsewhere. Whether we pulled the plug or not today is from Mike Waltz. European navies do not have the capability to defend against the types of sophisticated anti-ship cruise missiles and drones that the Houthis are now using. So whether it's now or several weeks, it'll have to be the U.S. Yeah. Oh. They're saying the first PC. As we stated in the first PC. Okay, so this is there's more group chats like this. I hope we get our hands on those someday. That would be funny, I think. We have a fundamental decision of allowing the sea lanes to remain closed or to reopen them now or later. We're the only ones with the capability, unfortunately. From a messaging standpoint, we absolutely add this to horribles on why the Europeans must invest in their defense. Sorry, I got so confused by the fucking word salad that Mike Walls was vomiting over text that I bumped into the wall twice. That was a very organic screw up. So they're starting to pivot to like, man, I fucking hate Europe. They're not even defending the trade routes, which is why we should just abandon all the European countries and stuff. There's the shock. I probably deserve to get last this race for how badly I've raced, but I don't think I'm going to. Ooh. That POW was in a good spot, I think. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, if I get an item here, I'm probably in good shape. There's an item. Yeah. Seventh? Alright. This game isn't skill-based mostly. Yeah, I know. Absolute banger post in the group chat from JD Vance. At Pete Hegseth. If you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing out Europe again. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight here, and if there are things we can do up front to minimize the risk to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it. So, fuck Europe. Saudi Arabia is our best friend. Like, literally. We posted this in a group chat that was leaked to a journalist. Pete Hegg said, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic. But Mike is correct. We're the only ones on the planet who can do this. Nobody else even close. The question is timing, etc., etc. From SM, whoever that is. We're watching The Office Government Edition. Yeah, kind of. But with more incompetence. As I heard it, the president was clear, green light, but we soon make clear to Egypt and Europe what we expect in return. So basically, they're going to run an extortion racket on Egypt and Europe. We also need to figure out how to enforce such a requirement. E.g., if Europe doesn't remunerate, then what? Literally protection money. Then what? If the U.S. successfully restores freedom of navigation at great cost, there needs to be some further economic gain extracted in return. Brother. Want a show, like an office show, based on this in the future? I think that would be funny. Because it's like I don't know, it's still early. We'll see how much fucking destruction there's still left for them to wreak, like, when all's said and done. We're only 2 months into the fucking first year, like, we're only 2 months into Trump's second term. You know, it's not even April yet. You know, we've got a long way to go on this ride still. But as it stands right now, it is still, like, comical, the fuck-ups here. It also, like, some people have said this about, like, what is it? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where, like, part of the point of the show is that all of them are bad people and you shouldn't be rooting for them, but they're absolute incompetence, and, like, the show itself is progressive, but all the characters fucking suck and are horrible human beings, and like, that's an inherent part of the show, that in the context of the show, they're also horrible human beings, which means the world around them is comparatively much more progressive and like full of people who are not massive shitheads, but like they're massive shitheads. I feel like you could make sort of an office show, like a show that's kind of like The Office, with that kind of dynamic, where it's like, oh, all the main characters are horrible people, but like they exist in a world that's capable of recognizing that they're all horrible people. Does that make sense? There's material there. Oh, man. Michael Waltz and Steve Witkoff are both the guys that communicate via emoji. Michael Waltz put the fist and then the American flag and then fire. And then Steve Witkoff later puts praying emoji, strong arm emoji, like flexing muscle, and then US flag, US flag. Oh my god. Brother. Do love that part of the super secret "we're violating the law" group chat was that, like, JD Vance and fucking Pete Hegseth were both like tweaking out. Same with whoever SM is. I don't remember who they were. They're like all tweaking out over how much they fucking hate Europe. In my recommendation, I got a video trying to convince me Elon Musk is like Iron Man. Certified, there is no far-right pipeline on YouTube moment. There is no Warren Bossing say. Anyways, here, have this video about how Elon is the glorious, epic meme lord savior of mankind. What's up, Grantham? Ah, my red shell missed. Avatar made cookies? What? What did he mean by this? Keep going here. What I wanted to say, I wanted to say something, I think, about this beyond just like what I've already said about how like the Atlantic got their hands on like the story of a lifetime and were still extremely like civility politics and status quo pilled about it. There's like I think there's something to be said here about like the death of national security as a concept, particularly because the other like large countries that the United States ordinarily would be concerned about getting their hands on classified information, we're now friendly to, you know, like I mentioned before, we're kind of in a world where like every country, like all the, you know, the capital class across countries all have the same interests now. Like their interests aren't even reliably different enough for the concept of national security to really persist. You know? So it's like, there's obviously not going to be consequences for such a gross display of incompetence on the part of the Trump administration because they're all the stooges of the owning class. But I feel like there's also not going to be probably that many consequences insofar as like international like the kind of consequences you would ordinarily expect from like a national security breach, you know, like the countries that would be best poised and most willing to capitalize on that are countries that we're now more friendly with, you know, like the Russias and Chinas of the world. You know, China we won't admit that we're friendly with, but they share the same interests all the same. And then Russia, the United States is openly more friendly with, you know, Trump meeting with Putin, trying to extort Vladimir Zelensky, and basically telling Europe that they're on their own, now exposing in the group chat that they all fucking hate Europe. You know. I think at the core it's because, like, we were already kind of in that world. I think this is just now, like, I'm realizing it, you know? Like, I even talked another time about, like, when somebody brought up that AI that the Chinese government made that's, like, free and open source and whatever. And I brought up that, like, the reason that the AI arms race even exists is because, like, like, there's no such thing as different national interests. Like, China and America don't actually have different interests. We have the same interest, which is the consolidation of wealth in the owning class. You know? We get the feeling that some programs are designed to help people act condescending. Yeah, I think so. Like, I suppose. There was definitely, like... Well... I think the Ivy League colleges are some pinnacle examples of that. And then the, like... I think you could also probably fairly levy that claim on any, like, business or finance major or whatever. Depending, of course. But, like, you know. And, of course, the way that the media talks about small business owners, seriously, I have never fucking I've never fucking seen a news outlet that doesn't like relentlessly glaze small business owners in this country. Did I grant them up there? Oh, you mean like, okay, no, that's Grantham right there. You mean like, there are certain, ways that, like, kids get taught that, like, no, you're not worth it, you're fucking subhuman and shit? Yeah, I get the sense of that. I was taught that, like, yeah. Being on the spectrum in middle and high school, I got that feeling too. There was a stigma around, being in like the world of special ed, you know, for like special needs kids and stuff, and in part it never really fully went away, but I remember it feeling so liberating when it was like, yeah, by the way, everybody sort of has one version or another of autism or ADHD or whatever. Nobody is like effectively, the difference between being neurotypical and neuroatypical is all vibes and doesn't really exist. It doesn't exist in such a baseline way that you can codify it on a sheet of paper like a medical diagnosis. Basically, like, the over medicalization of stuff like autism, ADHD, and other mental conditions and disorders and whatever implanted some weirdly like eugenicist sense of self-loathing in myself, and I think other kids as well, growing up. You know, this is probably going to be my last race. They want everyone to be forced their version of normal. Yeah, there's a conformist. It's just part of like it's part of a reactionary vision of conformism, kind of the same way that people would be like forced into the closet or stuff like being queer and whatever. You know, sort of like that. You know. But again, I think a lot of it also comes from the over-medicalization of it. Like, this means that, like... Well, it means two things. For, like, first of all, the over-medicalization of like, autism and ADHD and anxiety and whatnot, even though there are clinical elements to it, right? And there are some, what is it, congenial? Well, like... There are some genetic predispositions that people have towards ADHD, towards autism, towards depression, towards all these other sort of things that are challenging to live with, right? But like the emphasis on over medicalization, basically, it fucking turns people's understanding of those into like, oh yeah, you need to take your normal pills, otherwise I literally don't see you as a human being, or something like that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of essentialism inherent to it as well. Giant bear in my room? What a stress stream, dude. It's kind of a wild stress stream. Usually I have stress streams about like tornadoes and being lost at sea and stuff. I don't know, I guess it's different for everybody. Maybe. Damn it, I'm really tired today. Just trying to rack my brain for shit. Me after I'm fucking quiet for 7 seconds. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Probably gonna use this, it's like, what do I do? Dang. The bear was sleeping? Oh. I'm gonna hold this mushroom for the ending section. Yay. I think I got 4th? That'd be cool. Alright, quit the game. Not far away. This place feels like I'm doing a walking simulator? A .exe game, you say? With how far away this place is, feels like a walking simulator. Yeah. Yeah. I guess it makes sense that my mood kind of dropped off. Yeah, we're expecting rain soon. Rain really fucking affects my mood, which is probably why I tapered off so hard at the end. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I really wanted to come back to streaming because I didn't get to do that for several days because I had other shit to do that took up a lot of time. And in fact, yesterday I was so tired that I was like forgetting really basic shit, which is not a good sign. But it, like, I don't know. I thought it was really funny. I like Rain. I have a friend who likes Rain, but I don't feel the same way. Like, legitimately, there's something in my like I hate the Rain because of how it makes me feel on a internal like baseline level, if that makes sense. Legitimately, like when it rains, I lose my center of balance. I start getting a little bit dizzier. Everything feels just a little bit off. I get really irritable. These are all things that are beyond my control. I wonder if there's a study about that. I mean, it probably has something to do with my what is it? Seasonal affective disorder. I was talking about the over medicalization of certain things. This is one thing that I think is like it would be more appropriately discussed in a medical or clinical context, but because I don't think there's much I can do to actually address it or to control it or to like work beyond it. I kind of have to work around it, if that makes sense. Yeah, it really sucks. I think it's something about like the way the change in pressure affects the like mechanics of the human body, and I'm like especially sensitive to that. I don't know. It's not a good feeling, regardless. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the fucking group chat got leaked, but instead of edgy 13-year-olds on Discord, it's the fucking top officials of the Trump administration. Hopefully I'll be able to be back streaming more frequently and have more interesting things to say than not a ton. In fact, Hassan is live talking about something that I wanted to talk about but didn't have the time to, which is that the administration might actually be serious about annexing Greenland. Shoutouts to the Secular Talk viewers. You'll know about like the Tech Native America or some shit where there's like, oh yeah, we will control all of the land from the Panama Canal up to Greenland. And like, this is part of that, I think. Contributing to global instability, of course. Banned. No soliciting. Thank you. Read Hatsanabi. Alright. I'll see y'all later. Hopefully the next stream will be more interesting than this one. I kind of did this just to get back in the swing of it. Maybe the next one needs to be like less structured or something. I don't know. I'll see you then.